Hello and welcome to the Discover History YouTube channel, and if you watched our video on Sunday we asked you to get a number of items together because today, Bank Holiday Monday, we thought it would be quite nice to do a craft. If you think back, the last crafts that we did was all to coincide with VE Day back on May the 8th. So hopefully you've managed to get some cardboard, any type of cardboard. This is just some packaging that we had the other week. You also need some scissors, so make sure you've got someone to help you do the cutting out if you're of a certain age. You need a ruler, you need a pen, you need some glue, and you need some string. So what you need to do first of all is you need to cut out 3 rectangles. So what you need to do is take your ruler and your pen, because they all need to be the same size, and take your cardboard and draw a rectangle. They don't need to be that big. I will give you an idea of how big they should be. It's about that big. So you're talking, if you are looking at the exact measurements, around about 15 centimeters by around about 10 centimeters. The reason why we're going for that measurement is because the original ones are of that size as well, or of a similar size. So what you should have done is drawn your 3 rectangles onto cardboard and then very carefully cut them out. Once you've cut them out, you should end up with 3 pieces of card like that. Now, one piece needs to be set aside because you need to cut out the middle so it acts like a frame. In other words, something that looks like that. And that takes some very careful cutting. A bit of advice: punch a hole in each corner first and then cut it out. So you should have 2 pieces of cardboard like that and one looking like a frame. Now what you now need to do is take your glue, and we need to add some glue to the bit that looks like a frame. So all I'm doing off camera at the moment is adding lots and lots of glue so it all holds together onto my frame like that. And then what I'm going to do is glue that to my 1 rectangle of card. So I've now got 1 rectangular card with what looks like a frame on it. So you should now have this one, which we're going to call the top cover, and this one, which we're calling the bottom cover. So it actually is going to look like a book. Now we've also punched some holes in each one, and the reason for this is what we need to do very, very carefully is push some string through to hinge it all together. So what I'm going to do quickly is just push, if I can. I haven't got anything to rest it on, so you'll have to bear with me. Push some string through the one little hole. Hopefully it will go through. Might need to push the other end through because it's not as frayed. So make sure the holes are kept open and pass the string through. So there's the one, and what you want to do is tie a little knot in that string, because the string is acting as tiny little hinges, and I will show you a little bit better in a second. So I'm punching the hole, taking the string and passing the string all the way through and tying it off. So hopefully you've drawn the rectangles, you've cut the 3 rectangles out. One of the rectangles you needed to cut the middle out, so it's now looking like a frame, and then you glue them together like this. So there's our first rectangle. The second rectangle is acting like a frame. That's been glued to the back rectangle. So you should now have something that looks like that. Now once you've done that, you now need to take some plasticine or some Play-Doh, and if you remember, this is something that I asked to get out on Sunday, so hopefully you've got some. If not, you can make your own Play-Doh using flour and some other things, I believe. If you go online, you'll be able to look that up. And then what we're going to do is take our plasticine or Play-Doh, and you want to push it into the frame. So what we're going to do is push it down into the frame and go all the way up to the edges. So I'm just going to do this pretty quick. I'm not going to go and cover all of it. This is something that you can do at a later time, a later date. So all we're doing is filling in that frame like that, and you'll be able to push that in every little corner all the way over. Now the reason why we're doing this is because what you're actually making is a notebook, and it's a notebook that the Romans would have used way back in ancient times. Now Romans did write things down. They used, for example, the ancient paper that was called papyrus paper, which is actually made out of plants. What you do is you cut the papyrus plant into strips, and then you lie them on top of each other, and then you rub each of the layers together using a flat pebble, and that's how they made paper in ancient Egypt. That's what the Romans were also using. We also know that Romans wrote on wood, on very thin slithers of wood, about as thin as this actually. One of the most famous set of wooden manuscripts as such is those that were found at Vindolanda, and you can have a look online for those, the Vindolanda tablets as they were called. But what you will notice is anything of importance would have been wrote on paper or wood. Now that leaves notebooks. What are they going to use for writing down something as mundane as a shopping list? Or maybe they need to write something down, like a soldier on Hadrian's Wall might need to write down an important order which then needs to be taken to another officer or to another fort nearby. Well, what they would use is what was called a wax tablet. So what we've actually made is a replica wax tablet, but instead of making it out of wood, and instead of filling it with something else, not plasticine, we've made one, a replica one, that we can very easily make in home, and very useful if you've got a project to do over half term about the Romans, because the Romans did, like I said, write a lot of things down, but they often made notebooks called wax tablets to write memos on. Now, in the time that I've been talking to you, I have now covered the whole of that middle in plasticine or Play-Doh, whatever you want to call it, really. There we go. So we've got something like that. And that is a replica of one that I have here. So the one that I have is obviously made out of wood, and you will notice it's of a reasonable size to tuck into a small bag, just like the one that we've made. On the edges we have a hinge. This is made out of leather, whereas we've just got a little bit of string. And when you open up my wax tablet, what you will notice inside is what looks like a frame, and it's filled with wax. Now this beeswax has been mixed with charcoal, so it's black in colour. And what this would be used for is if, like I said, I need to write something down that's not permanent, in other words a shopping list or some orders, I will use what is called a stylus, which is a stick sharpened to a point, to write into the beeswax. And then once I've finished with it, all I need to do is smooth out the wax so it's ready for another memo. So these were very important things. All Romans carried these for writing things down on. And what you should have done is taken your cardboard, cut out 3 rectangles, cut out the middle of one of them, and then glue it to act as a frame. Punch holes down the corners and therefore thread it with string. And then what you've made in the middle is a gap to put your plasticine. And all you need then is a pen, or in this case a pair of scissors, and you can just write into the plasticine as they would have done writing in wax. And in the same way, when you finish with that memo, you smooth the wax out again and it's ready for another memo. and that's what they were using all the time. Now the interesting things about these is they have been found in archaeology, but sadly the wax is gone. But the interesting thing, and this is what I find absolutely fascinating, is because some of the wax was pretty thin, what used to happen is sometimes the stylus used to scratch into the wood at the back, and because archaeologists have found these without the wax, they've been able to read what was wrote on these. So we do know that they're used for shopping lists and orders to be sent from one legion to another, for example, or one fort to another. So hopefully you're going to have a go with that. And as we always say when we do crafts, please take a photo of it, let us know how you get on, and we will do another craft in maybe a few days time, or maybe next weekend. We might go back to doing one at the weekends. Anyway, on that note, stay safe. Make sure you send us your request either in email or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or on here, and we will do a little video dedicated to you or to a class or to a household. We don't mind. Anyway, see you soon. Bye bye.